Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is August 7th, and right now we're looking at the visible satellite imagery. As of yesterday morning, you can see the extensive marine layer into southwest BC, western Washington, carving itself out into the valley areas. And of course, if you go across the higher terrain, you'd be looking down on that marine layer across Mount Rainier and Mount Adams. And you can see as we go on in through the afternoon and the evening hours, thunderstorm activity across eastern Washington. And you can see a couple thunderstorms pop off across Lake Chelan, northeast Washington as well. We go towards the overnight hours. Thunderstorms continue across northeast Washington. You can see that new fire there from Mount Adams, the hot spot on the GOES 18 satellite imagery. We scroll through last night. You can see the thunderstorm activity across the Rocky Mountains as well. And then we scroll off in towards this morning. And again, you can kind of see that marine layer is punched back into western Washington. Not so much for much of the Willamette Valley, but some of the Portland Metro looks like they're dealing with the marine layer there, and nice and sunny across the Oregon coast. So we're going to be dealing with some smoke potentially drifting back into western portions here over the next few days with some offshore flow. We're going to take a detailed look at that. We're going to take a look at the extended forecast as well, because some of the models are showing some interesting systems trying to drop down across Pacific Northwest as we go on in through mid-August. Taking a closer look at that fire near Mount Adams. There's Mount Rainier here, and if we put that back and forth, there's going backwards and there's going forward as we go through this morning. You can see that smoke already starting to drift back out into western portions. It's over the Portland Metro right now. It may take a little bit longer for some of that surface smoke to get down into the region, but we're going to take a detailed look at that as well. Thunderstorm activity for today, mainly northeast Washington, Idaho, Panhandle, Montana, some British Columbia. This is day 2. You can kind of see that we introduced this thunderstorm threat here for the North Cascades. More on that here as we go through the video. And day 3, check it out. It does include portions of western Washington, clips Portland there as well. But definitely the chances are going to be higher across the higher terrain. Now looking at SeaTac yesterday, 70 degrees. I did enjoy that cool down, and the marine there stuck with us as we went through the early afternoon hours. Finally burned off, some nice sunshine, but we were 9 degrees below average, nowhere near the record high set back in 1972, but we are going to be warming things up here over the next few days. Taking a look at Spokane, they are always on top of things, issued 6:42 a.m. and thunderstorm activity for Friday and Saturday, and all these storms can contain dangerous lightning, so heads up for that. You can see maybe some gusty outflow winds, brief heavy rain. Taking a look at the breezy winds here. So this, if you notice, is out of the east and the northeast, and it's not as strong as some of the westerly surges we get, but gusting 30 miles per hour out of a different direction here. Some unusual crosswinds, and you can get some blowing dust as well. Now, this is something I find humorous on the weather belt. You can see as we scroll through here, you can see our little system spinning around northern Canada, but you obviously notice the data gap here for the Pacific Northwest. So you can kind of see the system there, but I wish they would merge this down here as I scroll down towards the Pacific Northwest. This is the same map here, and you can kind of see they just cut it off. I wish they would allow those maps to be merged. But you can see our system here with the cyclonic relative vorticity kind of spinning across the region, and that's what's going to help kick off some of these thunderstorms here as we go on into Friday and Saturday. And now we're going to take a little bit of a look at the extended forecast. Malcolm from Jurassic Park, a butterfly flaps its wings in Beijing and you get sunshine instead of rain in New York City or something like that. And we're going to take a look at what exactly can happen with our weather models here. This is the European and all 50 of its ensemble runs. So we're looking at 18,000 feet. And if I scroll off into the future, when we try to look off into an extended forecast, you can quickly see how things get quite chaotic here, chaos theory or whatever you want to call it there in Jurassic Park. But this just kind of shows you how initial conditions, depending on how they set up, can really lead to large differences as you look off into a forecast. That's why they call this a spaghetti pot. You see these noodles just all over the place. And although it tells us there is probably some troughing coming in our extended forecast, we just have very little confidence on any individual system here as we go on into the extended. We're looking at 8-9 days here to the forecast, and you can see these noodles just get really crazy and all over the place, and maybe some deeper troughing trying to come across the Gulf of Alaska as we go through the extended forecast. But if the forecast does not look like this to you when you're looking 12 days out as a meteorologist, you are doing it wrong here, because there is great uncertainty the further you look off into the future. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is the GFS. This is the ensemble mean. The GFS runs 30 of these ensemble members. Here's North America. There's Alaska, British Columbia, and Washington. If I put this into motion, we get this little weak system right here as we go through Friday and Saturday. Very subtle feature. And still got some ridging around, or it's going to warm up a bit. But then we start to bring this troughing here, and you can kind of see it setting up as we go on in towards next week. But again, this is an average of 30 ensemble members here, so things are smoothed out. But you can still see we have the troughing as we're going through through mid-August, kind of hanging out here, and it stays with us as we go through the 17th and the 18th there. And then, of course, once you look out to the extended forecast, things get really crazy, and so this really gets smoothed out, and it doesn't mean too much. Taking a look at what that would mean if we look at 10,000 feet on the GFS. I'm going to scroll off a bit here, and then we can see we're going to get some cooler air trying to move down. You see this bit of a polar lobe sliding down into western BC, including the Pacific Northwest. And then if we scroll far enough out, you can kind of see some interesting stuff as it wants to spin this right over the top of the Pacific Northwest, kind of a chilly upper level low there. But we're looking off into fantasy land right there, and you can kind of see the GFS has always got something fun if you look far enough out into the extended forecast. So taking a look at the European, let's see what kind of precipitation it shows as we go. We're going to go through Thursday, and you can see that thunderstorm threat start to exist across the northern Cascades, especially for the afternoon hours. We're scrolling in towards Friday, and you can see some of this over the Olympic Mountains, maybe Vancouver Island, western BC, across the Cascades. And you can't rule out a thunderstorm right now across the lower terrain, but right now the odds are not too great on that. Take a look on Saturday as well, and you can see again the thunderstorm potential develop. This is last night's European run, and this would be about Saturday afternoon. Taking a look at the lightning flash density potential. So we're going to scroll ahead here, and we're going to go on in through Thursday afternoon coming up. Here goes Thursday. You can see some of that thunderstorm potential there across BC. Some of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon could get a storm. And then we go on in through Friday. Better chances start to emerge here, as you can see. As we scroll through Friday afternoon, some of the European has been showing across the Kitsap Peninsula, the Olympic Mountains here, and maybe some of the foothill areas of Washington popping off a thunderstorm. And then we go through Saturday and something similar there as well, maybe more confined across the Cascades. So looking at the North American model, this is surface-based CAPE, convective available potential energy. So if we put this into motion, this is basically thunderstorm fuel, by the way. And if we go on into Thursday, you see things destabilize a bit more. And Friday afternoon, yet again, the NAM only goes out about 60 hours here, but you can clearly see the instability around the area as we go through Friday afternoon. Now, if we take a look at the European, we're going to look off into the extended one more time here, and that weak system here as we go through Friday and Saturday, and then we start to go back to the troughing as we go through next week. And you can kind of see that this is last night's run. The 06Z has some interesting troughing right off the coastline there. It gets reinforced as we go off into the very extended forecast. So, yeah, we have some potential for some interesting stuff here. But again, like I showed you with the spaghetti chart, we just don't have any confidence in those individual systems right now. Now, looking at what is coming here as far as winds are concerned, this is 925 millibars right off the surface for the lower elevations here, and sometimes it runs into the terrain. Of course, the Cascades are higher than 2,500 feet. But if we look at Wednesday, you can kind of see we're already dealing with a little bit of an offshore wind here, and that's what's bringing some of that smoke back already this morning. And you can see the northerly flow down the Puget Sound into the Willamette Valley. But look at this. You start to get the easterlies as we go on in through Thursday, and then you can see things are pretty squirrely, but they got some gusty winds across eastern Washington and some of eastern Oregon. And then we go on in towards Friday and Saturday. You can see, again, kind of squirrely winds. Not too strong of an onshore flow until we get off in towards Saturday. We start to bring those westerlies back. But we are definitely going to have the chance to bring some of that fire back into the region. You can see Friday, that offshore flow, and then we go through Thursday as well. So some of that smoke is going to get back across the area, at least aloft, if not at the surface. So if we take a look at the surface smoke here, this is a high resolution rapid refresh, goes out 48 hours. You can see all the smoke across the Cascades, east slopes, eastern Oregon, southern Oregon Cascades. But as we go on in towards later today, you can see that some of that smoke being introduced across some of the Portland Metro, the Willamette Valley especially. That Mount Adams fire is going to be spreading some of its smoke back to the west. You can kind of see it creep into western Oregon and eventually creeping into western Washington as we move through tomorrow morning. So you could be smelling some smoke out there. I'm going to show you the smoke aloft here in a moment, but you can see that some of this gets a little bit dense here across western Oregon, Olympic Mountains here as well. And yeah, you can see those fires continuing to stir, and some of that more dense smoke tries to move out to the west as we go through Friday morning also. So, you know, not a great picture here. Probably not as bad as some of the smoke storms we had in previous years, but you're going to notice it. So if we take a look at the vertically integrated, this is what's going on in all levels of the atmosphere. And as we scroll on in towards tomorrow, you can see pretty good plume of smoke above. And this could actually suppress some of those temperatures. It's supposed to get to the upper 80s, for example, for Seattle, but it could wreak havoc with some of those temperatures and hold them down a bit. Here we go through Thursday night on into Friday. You guys can get the picture here. We're going to get some smoke aloft back across the region. Looking at Bend, you can see as we went through this morning, had some pretty decent surface smoke, but a little bit of a break here, but then a return to that as we go on in through tonight and on in through tomorrow. Kind of that hit and miss smoke there, and some smoke aloft as well. Here's Tri-Cities, a lot of smoke aloft, and pretty decent amounts of smoke at the surface also. This is the cross section, it's about 39,000 feet. It'd be about 18,000 feet here, and of course at the surface. And again, that was for the Tri-Cities. This is Spokane. It doesn't look too bad right here. I mean, especially as you go off in towards tonight and tomorrow, you might get a little bit of a break here, but it's bound to return at some point, especially when they kick the westerlies back on. Portland International Airport, check it out as we go through tomorrow morning. That's probably the worst. Looking at things right now, you can see a pretty dense smoke just off the surface, but still including some of the surface as well. Seattle, Tacoma, likely to get some surface smoke. How much? Still a good question. You can see a lot of smoke aloft though. This is Bellingham, something similar there. Seattle, Tacoma, temperatures again, some of the smoke could be wreaking havoc with this. We might not get quite as warm depending on just how thick that smoke layer is. Now look at the National Blended Models. This is for today. See 81, some low 90s for the Willamette Valley here. And then we go through Thursday, Friday. Look at that, 90 for Seattle. Some very warm temperatures across southwest BC, eastern Washington, but not quite as warm as we have been dealing with. And then we go through next week. I want to show you a little bit of hope here as we start to bring some onshore flow back here across the region. More seasonable temperatures showing up next week. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, I like to show this cross section for the temperatures. This would be for today. That's for Thursday and Friday. So you can clearly see the warm up coming. This would be the afternoon hours. And then we go on in through Sunday here. And then we bring maybe some troughing here as we go through the extended forecast. And I keep waiting to see if they're going to update. Yes, they did. Okay, so we got some lightning strikes there for 11 and 12 as we go through Friday and Saturday. They may have to introduce some of this across the Cascades, NW1, 2, and 5, because Friday and Saturday are definitely going to have some lightning threat. There could be some precipitation with those, but it doesn't mean they still can't cause some fires. We'll see what they do again tomorrow, but you can see there are some browns out there as well for the elevated fire risk. This is the 8 to 14 day issued yesterday. I'm showing that troughing here coming up. This is August 14th through 20th, and the precipitation a little above average signal there. And again, we'll be watching that daily, day by day. And this is kind of a nice, the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, for example, if you're in Western Washington, you can also go to air quality and just Google that, and you can find all kinds of different maps. But this kind of gives you a really quick look at things here. You can see King County, Kitsap, Pierce, Snohomish, and there's Darrington right there. If you want to look at the Cascades, it just kind of gives you a quick thumbs up, like, hey, go ahead and do your jog out there or whatnot. The air quality is fairly good, so you want to check that out. But yeah, anyway, lots to talk about coming up here. We'll do my daily briefings all like normal again tomorrow. I'm also planning on putting out regional July recap and just kind of doing that each month. We'll take a look at what the forecast said was going to happen. We'll take a look at what actually happened. We'll take a look at what we talked about, and we'll kind of look at individual locations as well. What kind of temperatures, how much below or above average we were, what kind of precipitation we got, and then we'll take a look at what is to come for the following month. So hopefully you guys enjoyed these videos. Click like and subscribe. We will do this all again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then.